On today's podcast, I had the pleasure of interviewing Maggie Grindatti. And I'm not going to lie to you, I kind of fanboyed during this interview because she is a 7-time world champion, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu champion. And I love MMA. I love combat sports. I love the discipline around the martial arts. And she's applied that discipline to her new business. And she's growing her business at a rapid rate, applying what she's learned as an athlete. And it was just an absolute treat. She's so genuine and open with her comments. You are really going to enjoy today's podcast. Maggie is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt and 7-time world champion. She holds an impressive record of achievements that include winning multiple IBJJF competitions at colored belt levels in both gi and no gi competition. And she most recently won gold at the IBJJF European Open in 2022. Maggie's also the jiu-jitsu coach for UFC champion Amanda Nunes and was octagon side for Amanda's last title defense, which happened to also be her retirement fight. So you can't even write the story. Maggie also runs her own business, Champion Fit, which is an online fitness and strength and conditioning program designed to transform average people into athletes and athletes into champions. Maggie, welcome to the ThriveMore podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. Happy Monday.
Oh, yeah, happy Monday. You know, Maggie, before we went on air here, I was sharing with you that I'm just a huge MMA fan and have followed the sport for 30 years now, 30 years. And I have so much respect for the athletes in it and even the promoters and what they've done with it. Can you take us back and talk about how did you get involved in high level jiu-jitsu? Because you're not playing at the low levels. This isn't strip mall jiu-jitsu. Like you're doing it, right? So can you kind of talk about that?
Fully committed. Yeah. I mean, for me, I've been an athlete my whole life. I had a really, really great, Google American childhood. That was me. Every season I played a sport. Once I got older, I'd be going to the camps and the tryouts to get to college. I played Division I field hockey in college. And then from college, my uncle, he used to be an old school MMA promoter in Hawaii. TJ Thompson is his name. Yeah. And so he always called me the son he never had. So just because I was always the most athletic in my family. So when I graduated college, it was either master's degree or go to Hawaii and learn how to fight people. So I went and I was like, I've never not been an athlete. That's all I know. So I went to Hawaii, started with MMA, but I fell in love with jiu-jitsu.
And why so?
That's such a good, I don't know if anyone's ever asked me that question, really. I was always much more naturally better at it. I think because I played kind of contact sports. I played ice hockey and field hockey, which have a little bit of contact, obviously, without the punching and kicking. So I don't know if it was so much the punching or kicking. I also didn't love the lifestyle of MMA in a sense of it's morning to night you have to train, because MMA is mixed martial arts. So you have to be good at all the different types of arts. And I think just naturally jiu-jitsu was the art that I did that I enjoyed the most. That I always talk about this too. I think I'm somebody who gets bored, and we can go into that with Champion Fit later too. So every sport I've done, these are the rules. This is what it is. And I think jiu-jitsu, it's like you can make up your own moves. There's no end to it. Yeah. So I think jiu-jitsu is just something that I'm the type of person, I need fresh, I need new, I need different all the time. And jiu-jitsu just did that for me, on top of course, concussions and my face and all of that. Not getting hit is a good thing in the long run. And I'm also somebody who's also been very secure with my profession, the strength and conditioning. In MMA, when I was training that, I couldn't coach. I didn't have time to give myself to other athletes and other people. So I think that was with jiu-jitsu, was just naturally, it made more sense to me. And the life balance, work-life balance, passion, life balance was just, I need balance in my life. So I think that's why why jiu-jitsu stuck with me. And then I started doing more competitions. I would travel once a month from Hawaii to the mainland, we call it, to compete. And it was actually my best friend's boyfriend at the time. He won brown belt worlds and I was there to witness it. And I saw him drop to his knees and cry. And it just made it really real for me.
Sure.
I was like, okay, this is a thing. Like, this is what people do for their lives. Like, let me give this a shot. So it was 2017 as a blue belt that I was like, okay, this is what I want to do.
Yeah. And, we'll make lots of parallels between your competitive career and then business, because, and for those of you that are listening that don't have a lot of experience with MMA is mixed martial arts, where it's punching, kicking, elbows, grappling, really
not many rules.
Not many rules. You can't poke anybody in the eye or things like that, but it's pretty much, it's a real fight competition that is regulated, where jiu-jitsu, of course, is more grappling, which is, in Americans, we call it wrestling, but there's more chokes and leg locks and joint locks to get people to what's called tap. And that's like saying, Uncle,
you have a chance to run. Yeah.
Exactly. You can say, just kidding, time out. In
MMA, you're in a cage. There's no running.
Exactly. Can you take us back to maybe that one of the first or second, third, I don't know, whatever time it was when you were on the mat and you were rolling and you just had the feeling of like, I love this. Like, can you remember that epiphany when jiu-jitsu just took over your heart?
I say it all the time, and it's definitely when you compete. And I tell people, especially at seminars, when I talk to people who haven't competed before and when am I ready to compete and this and that, it's like, you're never going to know. And it's like, I've had athletes that go, they win, they kill it. And they're like, nope, never for me, not doing it again. And then vice versa. I've had athletes go get their butts kicked and be like, let's go again, So for me, it was more so the competing. The first time my first competition was 2 weeks into jiu-jitsu. My uncle was like, oh, let's do a practice weight cut. So I do this weight cut. Whenever I made it, he drops me off at a tournament. It doesn't stay, drops me off and just has me fight. That wasn't the exact moment that I fell in love with it. I won and it made sense to me. But it was more so when I did the IBJJFs that were more, also for those of you listening, it's kind of jiu-jitsu's UFC, it's or NFL more so type of thing. It's our biggest federation. When I did one of those, that was much more controlled and organized, and the people I was competing with. And like I said, it was very real to everybody else around me, which made it real to me. And of course, you see 70-year-olds doing it. So it was also like, okay, I can be a competitive athlete for the rest of my life on my own terms, right? If I don't want to compete, I don't have to. If I want to, I always can, almost any weekend. And I think I played team sports my whole life. So I think being the only one responsible in the match, I liked also not having to rely on other people. I love the team atmosphere that you still get with martial arts, because you're helping each other prepare. But I do like it's on you. You lose it's your fault. You win, it's all on you. So I like that individual aspect of it.
Love it. Am I correct that you won a championship at every belt level? Did I read that correctly?
In the gi and in no gi, back-to-back years.
So just for the audience, explain what that means, because has that ever happened before? Is that very rarely, I would imagine.
I know there's been some people to do it in the gi back-to-back years. In no gi is kind of just really becoming very followed. So I don't know so much with that. I know people have won at every belt. But I do not know if there's been anyone who's done it at gi and no gi at every belt back-to-back years.
Yeah.
That I would have to research to find out for sure. So, and it's still something that's hard to wrap my head around.
Yeah. So what Maggie is saying, and just, put yourself on a world stage, the best in the world. There are two forms of jiu-jitsu. One includes a gi, which, for lack of better terms, think of a karate uniform.
Yes.
A really thick karate uniform, right? And you're grappling, you're grabbing, choking and using the gi to actually make people tap out and to win the competition. And you can actually use the gi as a weapon, almost a tool. But no gi is just like, again, I'm trying to make this as simple as possible, like bike shorts and a compression shirt. That's the easiest way to think about it. And you don't have anything to grab onto except their limbs and your limbs. Very different. Now, similar skills, but very different approach to win. And Maggie, at every belt, meaning, as you get promoted up through any martial art, your belt becomes different colors as your skill level grows. She won in both forms at every belt on the world stage. That's crazy. That is crazy. Like, wow.
A lot of tears.
Yeah. Which one of, I'm sure there were many, but can you recall, one or two of those competitions where you felt you were behind a little bit and you had to come back, or where, you were in a very bad position and just would not tap? Because there's a business lesson in that, right?
Of course. I think it was more so not in the actual matches, but going into some of my world championships, because as I was saying a couple minutes ago, it's like the biggest question is, how do I know if I'm ready to compete? And it's like, even as a black belt who's fought 1,000 times, I don't know if I'm ready until I get on the mat, but obviously there's things we can do to prepare ourselves better and things that we don't prepare us better. So there was a couple of times my purple belt, gi world title, I had torn my LCL 2 weeks before. So I stopped training for that one to kind of strengthen the legs so that I could go in stronger. And my first 2 fights, I chose to do a position that I don't usually do. So just again, for the listeners, there's like the wrestling, which is from standing. But then in jiu-jitsu too, we also can sit on our butts and play what we call guard. So I did that, which I don't usually do, but because of my knee, it was a safer position. So my first 2 matches at Worlds, I played guard. And then I remember going over to my professor and being like, if I'm going to win this, it's not going to be like that. So I went back to my feet and I stood and I was able to win. And then going into the following year at brown belt, same thing. I had an injury. I actually did a box jump on a cement box and hairline fractured my shin.
Oof. Ouch.
So I couldn't train again. So it was more so those 2 were really big deals. The purple belt, because it was the first back-to-back, and that was like, holy crap. And I was injured. And then brown belt was back-to-back-to-back, also on top of being injured. So it was more so going in. When I got in I don't think I ever had to come from behind. There was definitely sometimes where I would tie and I would get the decision, but I knew I'd be getting the decision also. So it was more so a lack of preparation going in, kind of being like, this is going to be hard, more so than being behind in the fight. So, yeah.
So, I liken athletics to, I've never been great at athletics, and I used to train in MMA for just fun, for fitness.
Of course.
Yeah. And I would come home just the living hell beat out of me, and my wife would be like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm competing. She's like, no, you're losing. You're just losing. You may want to rethink this whole thing. But I think that, you could, there's always the analogies of, and that's why there's so many sports analogies used in business. I would love to know, and I think one of those actually is mindset, right? Like, success in business is a choice. It is a choice. It's hard as heck, but it's a choice to win. And success in athletics is a choice. Like, I am going to win and do no matter what it takes to win.
Yeah.
Can you talk about how you get your mind right before you compete? How do you, I'm sure that starts months before you're going to compete, but what is the mental aspect of your game?
Right. I mean, of course, the biggest thing is consistency, right? The more you do something, the more comfortable you are, the more confident you are. Whether you're going against different people, the same people you've lost to, whatever it is. Like you said, you compare business and athletics all the time because of that reason. To be successful at something, it usually takes the same antidote, right? And it's doing it over and over and over and over again. So if I'm going to take a match once and then not until the next year, my nerves are going to be very different than if I'm fighting almost every month.
Yeah.
You know, so that was the biggest thing at first. And what I tell my athletes too, blue belt and purple belt, I fought almost every month.
Wow.
You know, brown belt, I fought less, and black belts, I fight way less, mainly because of my profession, you know.
Sure.
But definitely the biggest thing for the mindset, I believe, is being comfortable on the mat, you know. So
Yeah.
definitely training as much as you can and then competing as much as you can. And then my second thing is always the why, you know, knowing why, you know, you're doing what you're doing. And for me, especially with jujitsu, it's not as professional as a sport as UFC or obviously NFL or those professional sports. So when it comes to jujitsu, we're really just seeing the dollars at this point. So that was always the other thing I like to remind myself is like, hey, this isn't paying your bills. You know, you're doing it in a way to compete. It does pay some people's bills, but I'm lucky enough to have my business, you know. So that's something, at least for me mentally, that's easier to deal with, is like, hey, this isn't going to change the roof over your head, the food on your table. So stop putting too much weight on your shoulders about it, you know, things like that. And then the third one for me, I'm a believer, I'm a Christian. You know, I always put everything in God's hands. So it's like, if I want to say that I'm a believer in that sense, and for whatever you believe in, you know, if you trust a higher power, it's already decided, you know. So I'm going to walk in there doing what I love. You know, that's the other reason of why I make sure we're doing things, because we like to do it.
Yep.
We love to do it. So my passion is definitely probably the major fuel when it comes to my mindset.
Yeah. I've tried to raise my children with, you know, find out what you love to do and then figure out how to get paid for it, right?
Yeah.
Find out what you love to do and then figure out how to get paid for it.
And it's usually a harder grind than taking the easy job.
Yep.
You know, it's going to be a harder grind, but the reward from it is going to be beyond what any high paying job could give you.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. What's the best? Well, two questions, because you coach a lot too. I mean, you know, I said that little thing at the beginning, but that may have been right past some people's ears, but I can tell you it made a lot of people pay attention to this interview. You were Amanda Nunes, the GOAT, the greatest of all time female UFC competitor, at two different weight classes, held the belt, and just a classy, wonderful human being too. But you were, you know, she leaned into you. She chose you to help her to get ready. What was that like, training a person who was competing at the highest of the highest levels?
Yeah, it was amazing, you know, and it's something I wouldn't do if the person wasn't the right fit too, you know, like you were saying, her personality, everything like that. Because there's even sometimes I'll fight girls, it's a really good fight, I might win or lose, whatever, and I just don't want to fight them again, just because their attitude and their persona and everything like that. So when it was actually Amanda's wife that reached out to me, and that's the other thing too, like just their team, like who they are as people. She reached out to me and, you know, asked like, hey, Amanda's going to go into camp. We're looking for someone for her to train with. So I didn't know much at first to train with and teach, you know, jiu-jitsu, coach on the jiu-jitsu side. And I didn't know as much going into it, you know, and then when I finally, of course, I was like, let me think about it. No, I was like 100%, let's do it.
Sure.
And then when Amanda and I, you know, got to know each other better and talking and getting into it, you know, her thing was she was always a part of a team, right? But we do an individual sport. So for her, it was like, why do I need 8 different people to train with when I'm only going to be fighting one person? So her and her wife's mindset was like, let's find somebody the same size, you know, the same level that can also help in a sense of coaching, right? Because she's not going to grab someone from MMA because they're probably going to know less in a sense of a specific art. And who she was fighting, she needed to prepare more her jiu-jitsu. So that's what we did. I, of course, helped coach and teach where she needed, but we were going at each other every training. And that was the really cool thing too, is because it's hard in our sport, especially females, to find somebody that you can absolutely try to kill and you're hugging at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, so that's what we had really good that I think worked too, was not only her being so good at being coached, but also us being able to try to kill each other, hug it out after. And then even if she beat me being like, hey, I need you to change this, and her being humble enough to be like 100% and changing it. Like, that shows the type of athlete she is, not only in the training, but in the fight, exactly what we worked on. And she didn't have much to critique, you know, but the little things that she needed critiqued, like, she took it, ran with it, and absolutely dominated. So the experience, as much as I was the coach, oh my gosh, I learned so much just all around, you know, from being in her presence. So GOAT is like the best way to describe her, because for me, I believe a GOAT isn't just what you accomplish in your performances, it's who you are in life altogether. And so for her, she's a definition of martial artist, of GOAT, of like a leader in female martial arts. So incredible.
Love it. You said a couple of great nuggets there. One, when you're around somebody who is that good, that raises your game, just raises your game. And it does matter who you are as a person. There's a lot of people that win in business, make a ton of money, and I wouldn't want to hang out with them, right? I just wouldn't want to hang out with them. So
or
there's a way.
idolized, right? It's not even that their bank account shows it. It's their following. It's this, and it's like, God, if you really knew who they were, it's
Yep.
Scary.
Yeah. No, for sure. For sure. Do you like, I think I know the answer to this, but do you like coaching more? Because we're going to transition into kind of your business too, but
yeah.
Do you like coaching and developing people more than competing, or is it, which one, or does this depend on the given day?
No, I would say I do enjoy coaching and developing other people for their success better. And I believe that my success as an athlete, my experience as an athlete, is all towards that, right? It's like everything we do, everything we've gone through in life is always for the bigger picture. And there's big pictures at each step of our lives, you know? So at first, when I started competing, it was just me and my black belt from Hawaii. So it's like there wasn't much of a team, and I got to focus on myself and I got more of that experience. Then when I got into a bigger team, that's when more of my coaching kind of started flourishing. I have my degree in health, exercise, and sports sciences, but my entire senior year was coaching. How to coach, even like from words to use and to not use. Like, so I wasn't only educated in the body, but also in how to deliver as a coach.
That's a great program.
Yeah. So it's not just like I'm good at it naturally. I have the education, the degree to back it up. So then when I joined a bigger team, and even my champion fit, my workouts, I just started working out by myself. Then one person would join, two people would join, and then the titles came. And then the more people. So it's like I always had champion fit. It just wasn't as established. But when I started jujitsu, I was like, okay, I want a strength and conditioning spot facility inside a jiu-jitsu school. That was my big, endpoint at the time.
Yeah.
And then being on a bigger jiu-jitsu team too, I just kind of started to open my mouth. It's not like I stepped into the role or forced I just was present, and I understood how to train people to make them better on and off the mat, till it got to the point where, the head professors at the school were placing me into that position. I would travel just to coach and stuff, as I do now. So it kind of happened over time, first in the strength and conditioning world, and then moving over onto the mat. And I tell this to people all the time. Just because somebody's a good athlete doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be a good coach, and vice versa. And the vice versa is, I feel like, where it takes the biggest hit. You could have some of the best coaches who can't score a point.
Yeah.
What they're trying to do, but we can't take that away from them, because not everybody can coach and not everybody can be an athlete. So I definitely at this point in my life, I want others' success, and I want to be able to help in that realm as much as possible. For
That's
sure. And then
beautiful.
compete just to keep me sharp, to learn how to be a better coach, and because I'm an athlete. I love the challenge.
Yeah. Is there, I'm sure, again, over your career, you've gotten amazing amounts of great advice. Is there a piece of advice, and let's transition to business. Is there a
Yep.
piece of advice, as you said, hey, I need to start transitioning, not out of competing, but just in addition to competing, into a business world and start building my business? What's one great piece of advice that you got as a young entrepreneur on how to build a business?
Know what you're good at and know what you're not good at.
Yeah. Can you elaborate
What
on
you're
that?
not good at. Yes. So
Yeah.
this is huge because I think everybody in life goes through a phase where I know it all.
Yeah.
Some people get out of it, some people don't. Right. And as a female from 16 to 23, I knew it all.
Yeah.
Like I just did.
Yeah.
So I think that was one piece of advice that really stuck with me was this guy that I talked to. He's mainly more somebody I talk to about finances and stuff like that, but he's like, I have this diagram, right? He's like, here's me, here's my wife, then here's finances, and here's the two people I talk to. Here's fitness, here's the two people I talk to. Here's so it's like you need to find, and going back to using jiu-jitsu as an example, there's many legends in our sport that might open a gym and have zero success because they don't know anything about business.
Yep.
Be the face, let somebody else do the business for you.
Yeah.
So for me, and going into my online business, I always focused because that was what was growing, that was what was happening, was online. So posting workouts, trying to make money online, selling camps, this, that, until I realized I have 30 to 80 people showing up a day in person for me.
Yeah.
So I realized I'm way better in person. I'm way better face to face. I'm way better like this. I have people yell at me all the time. You don't text me back. I'm like, if it wasn't something I needed to text you back for, I probably am not going to, So I realized I am good at coaching in person.
Yeah.
That online thing, if somebody wants to come to me and be like, hey, I'll do all of that part, you just give me workouts, cool. But I realized I'm good at that. My husband is super good at taking videos, editing, posting. I'm also not very, So for me, if you're going to open a business, of course you want to do as much as you can on your own, especially at the beginning. That's just an overhead finance thing, which is also don't put on your plate what you can't handle. Because of course you can teach yourself things and you can get by for so long at the beginning of a business, but there are things where it's like, ask for help.
Yeah.
Asking for help, taking help, and knowing what somebody else can do better than you at to help you help them. Do it. Don't do anything by yourself.
Yeah. That's the ability to set the ego to the side, right? And say, I don't know. I just don't know. I need help.
100%.
Yeah.
When I started asking for help, I
Yeah.
took off in life.
Listeners, rewind that right there. When she started asking for help, she took off. Like I don't know why we feel so compelled to have all the answers, but we don't need to. We don't need to, especially working in a team, and a business is a team. Let me ask you because I like to have a real conversation when we do these podcasts. I mean, we're having a real conversation, but I like to go a little, what challenges have you faced being a woman in both a very competitive, more male dominated sport, and then transitioning into business, which unfortunately can be dominated by old white guys, says the guy with gray hair interviewing you. So I'm always curious to know, how that, because we have a lot of women that listen to this show, how that impacted you, and more importantly, how you've overcome that.
Yeah. So this is a funny thing. I actually studied men because I got to the point in life where, like I was saying, I know everything. I used to have really short patience too. And then I kind of had the realization of like men and women are different.
Sure.
you know? And if this is a men's world, I want to try to understand them as I would hope men would try to understand us. And that would be in a relationship too,
Yeah.
you know? And so it's like when we when we fully understand that, you know, men are never going to be able to not predict what we want, but like know what we want and vice versa,
Mm-hmm.
that really helps. So obviously I'm in a man's world. Jiu-jitsu, that's just how it is. If
Sure.
we look at the statistics of it, it's
Yeah.
probably like 90 to
Yeah.
10%, right? So that was that first. And for me, the first thing I did was I just showed up. You know, we're always looking at equality and everything like that. But if you look at men, they're also not standing on stages protesting that they're men. You know, and at the end of the day, if you do something better than a man, I believe consistently enough, you are going to get recognized for it. And then that's where the respect comes in too, because it's just like men. They're not getting these jobs just because they're men. They're getting it because they're men and they're good at what they're doing. You know, so I think when we separate and kind of promote equality too much, it actually
Yep.
kind of separates equality.
Mm.
You know, it's like if we want equal, like, because that's what people always ask me too, like, oh, why don't you have a gym just for females? To me, that's not equality.
Yeah.
You know, so I've always the first thing I've done is always tried to be very like see things as equal,
Yep.
and also in a scientific side too. You know, as a strength coach, I'm very strong,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna be as strong as a guy 30 pounds less than me. My advice to females always in business is I don't want to be kind of rude, but almost not keep your mouth shut, but keep your mouth shut and work hard. You know, sometimes that's going to get you way more noticed than trying to yell all these things, you know, and like for me, if you are quiet and you show up day to day and you know what you're doing, you have the facts or the whatever it is you do, you know, for me it's science, you have the science behind it, you have the work ethic, you have the resources that you need, man or female, you're going to be successful. You know, do I think sometimes it can take more for female? Yes, but if you want it bad enough, you have to just keep showing up. Because also too, I believe that females' minds, as I was talking about, are different. I do believe we're more proactive. If we're looking at a majority, right?
Sure. Sure. Sure.
Proactive, organized. You know, we have different ideas than men do. There are a lot of the times if a man and a woman goes into the same um um profession, you almost and it's equal in a sense of who's above them or whatever,
Yeah.
treating them equally, you do see the woman start to advance. So
Yeah.
I don't think there's unfairness in the world, but more so a lack of drive with what we're doing versus what we're saying.
Mm. Wow, that's a mouthful. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Drive with what we're doing versus what we're saying. And what I
Yeah.
really what I you know what you've encapsulated is results matter. Results trump everything. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter, you know, gender, color, whatever. Results trump everything. And
Yeah.
you just have to do it. So you kind of talked about you know, some of the biggest pieces of advice. Can you talk about one of the biggest challenges as you've made this pivot into business ownership? Because we have a lot of people that are entrepreneurs or being, you know, they're getting ready to go into entrepreneurship,
Hmm.
and you know it as well as I know it. It's hard. It's just hard. You know, there's no easy way in business. It's hard, but it's so worth it.
Yes.
What's one of the biggest challenges that you faced as you started to really scale and dedicate more and more to your business?
I mean, the first thing is the unknowing. You know, of
Yep.
course. I mean, I was very confident, you know, like for me it was just cuz I just opened a physical location. I
Mm-hmm.
was running outside, me and my ex were together for 6 years. My
Mm-hmm.
strength and conditioning facility was inside his gym. We obviously decided to go separate ways. So for me, of course, it was like give me a space, throw equipment in it, I'll make it happen. You know, of course that's
Yep.
the mindset you do have to have too. And again, I was lucky I had results already. So I was coming with a backup in a sense. I've already proven I know what I'm doing. So if you show up, I got you, you know? But I think if we're talking more like logistics of things, like be ready to invest in yourself.
Yeah.
And it's not always fun investment. Buying fitness equipment is cool. Paying money for yearly service on your AC, not fun. but that's to me, I think the thing that we all know that like business, you pay bills and stuff, but I do think that's the thing that people underestimate the most, because it's not just the rent, it's not just the reoccurrings. The reoccurrings are easy to deal with. That's a set number, you know, and by reoccurrings, for those of you who might be confused by that, that's the rent, that's the average of your electricity, if you pay water, those are the reoccurrings. But it's the random things that you're not always financially prepared for, but just trusting, you know, for me, it's trusting when I have to, you know, pay either a bill like that keeps something running, or, you know, jujitsu mats. My gym is a fitness gym. Do I have money to buy jujitsu mats right now? Probably not. But am I going to because it's an investment? Yes.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest thing with opening a business is you're never going to be, I think it's like having a baby. Like you're never going to really be fully prepared. You're never going to know if you're ready or not, you know? So it's about doing it, but doing it at 100%, meaning if you're giving every penny to make your business better, it's an investment, not useless things, right? It's an investment, then do it. You know, like for me too, I don't have art on the walls yet. I want art on the walls, but nicer equipment is what's going to keep members in here, not the art on the walls. So that's what I mean by giving the last pennies to those investments, you know? So I think that's something that's not talked about. It's like, don't just account for the reoccurrings. Literally make sure you have an extra $1,000 for the cleaning products, for, you know, the little things like that we don't tend to add up. And just not being afraid to invest in yourself.
100%. I always champion people to have at least 3 times the amount of cash available that they think they may need. Because one, you'll sleep a lot better at night. But those things happen. You know, you have to fly your business 3 mistakes high, and those things happen. Well, tell us about Champion Fit, and I think an even bigger question is, and important is, what are you aiming to accomplish? You know, you fast forward 5-10 years in the future. What are you aiming to accomplish with Champion Fit?
Yeah. My main accomplish is just everybody is made to be an athlete. Everybody's body is made to move, whether you do a sport or not. You know, everybody's body is made to move athletically. We just limit ourselves from doing so. Mm-hmm. And this morning at my gym was a perfect example. You know, I text everybody the night before. We make a list of who's coming. I was like, guys, we are doing only single leg this week. You guys are ready for it. You know, and one of my clients, like when I watched you perform the exercises, I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to do that. And then they did. And that's it. You know, we see things and we're like, not happening, but we don't try. We don't try. You know, it's just like me. I had my strength and conditioning facility in someone else's gym. I was in a comfort zone. I was chilling. Could I do it on my own? I wouldn't have known if I didn't try, you know? So with Champion Fit, I target both audiences, right? The average human and the athlete. For the average human, it's for you to become athletic. And for my athletes, it's for you to become sometimes an athlete, because just because you do a sport doesn't mean you're athletic. And martial arts is definitely one of those sports. Like there is jiu-jitsu guys, you watch them and you're going to think they're the most athletic person and they can't do a box jump. Yeah. And as much as you want to argue like, oh, but they can perform jiu-jitsu. Yeah, but for how long? Yeah. Are their bodies going to be able to withstand that? What position are they going to get into that their body can't do? And then they're going to get hurt. Yep. So not only for athletes is it to be able to get them to be able to be prepared for every single thing. If we're looking more at the general population, you know, I've had one client I had at my old space. She was a media content creator. She's like, just carrying my equipment is easier. You know, she's like, it's something I never noticed. She goes, I've done it for 10 years, blah, blah, blah. She goes, but now I don't even notice I'm doing it. So as much as the general population wants to say, oh, I'm not an athlete, I can just go to the gym, do squats, bicep curls, of course you can. But when you have to go move your house, when you have to play with your kids, carry your baby, do something out of the blue maybe you're not used to, or those everyday activities that do make you tired, you might start noticing you're not getting as tired. And the cool thing that I've created too is that team atmosphere. So at any given class, I have professional jujitsu athletes of the highest level. I have rugby players, and then I have a mom who just gave birth 3 months ago.
Yeah.
I have a lady who just had ACL surgery. I've had guys who have never worked out in their life, and they're all doing the same workout at the same time. And then my athletes are going and winning competitions. My rugby teams are going to nationals. So just because there's moms and average humans in their class, they're not getting held back. So and then you have these average humans that you see their shoulders roll back, their chins get a little bit higher, because not only are they discovering what their bodies can do, they're watching this guy go fight somebody and kick his butt. And they're like, I worked out with him last week. So
Exactly. Yeah.
it's giving that the average human the athlete experience that they never maybe had, or that they did have that now they get to come back to. The team atmosphere, everybody's talking about, oh, the training yesterday. It's not like your typical boot camp where you walk in and walk out, maybe make a friend or two. No, we're talking about it. We're in a group chat. We make a list of accountability of who's showing up. It's a really, really, really cool experience. So that's what
Oh, I
Champion
love it.
Fit is to just show people what they're capable of, whether it's with their body or who they're surrounding themselves with. Because just as masculine and femininity, we want equality, like human equality too, right? So super cool.
Mhm. Love it. Love it. Where can people find you? Where can they follow your stuff and get in touch if they want to?
Awesome. So I try to be super good at Instagram. My handle is at Maggie Grindatti. It's just my name. I try to be really good at getting back to people on there. I do have a website, championfit.us. We are actually going to be under construction with that. So the best thing to do right now is through Instagram. Now we have a subscribe page on there, and that's where I'm posting my workouts now. And it's actually truthfully cooler than the website, because the website was pre-recorded. You can kind of build your own workouts, but with my subscribe page, you're following along. So my husband actually records me demonstrating the workout to the class, and then that's what I post on my Instagram. So not only are you following along exactly what we're doing, it's almost like you become a part of the class. And then we post about it too. So people doing the exercises see people doing it inside of HQ Champion Fit here. So yeah, right now, the best way to reach out with questions or to join in on the fun is definitely going to be through my Instagram, and I can help people out there.
Fantastic. We'll actually put that in the show notes when this show goes live. We'll put that in the show notes so they can just click right on it.
Awesome.
One, I just want to say thank you. I'm so grateful for the time you spent this morning, and I kind of fanboyed just interviewing you because I just love the sport. I love the competitiveness of it, and to speak with someone who's done it at such a high level has just been a treat. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Make sure you get a hold of Maggie, and I have looked at a lot of your Instagram stuff, and it's fantastic, very well shot, and
thank you.
Very inspirational. So again, thank you for joining, and for the audience, remember to set your intentions for the day and strive to thrive. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much for tuning into the ThriveMore podcast. Don't forget to take a look at the show notes for any resources mentioned during the show, and if you haven't already, be sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on your notifications so you have access to the latest and the greatest. I'd also like to remind you to check out our website, thrivemoorebrands.com. There you'll find information on the brands we support and information on franchising. Thank you again for tuning in, and until next time, always remember to set your intentions for the day and strive to thrive.